Nels, do you want to take us into the game of the round, obviously, at Allianz Stadium? I'm sure we'll all be there. Waratahs and the Drua. And before you do, the curtain raiser. How good is the Wallaroos taking on Fijiana? So that's pretty good. Saturday afternoon, 2 games at Allianz. How good?
Is that actually the same stadium?
Same stadium. Yeah. It's the curtain raiser it's a test match. So
that's pretty awesome. I like the sound of that. Harry
well,
and
I just hope you guys are still standing by the time that game starts. I don't know how many beers you will have had in game 1, but we'll see how we go.
Mate, we are actually going to do the coin toss at the start of the Tars match. So we will be in fine form by that, just so we know we can flip the coin properly, because otherwise it's going to be pretty embarrassing.
I look forward to watching you trip over on the field.
This could be a banana peel match, and I think that's probably unfair to the Drua. They're going to turn up and have a real crack at this one. The Waratahs, they had a new injury to Lalakai Foketi. Harry, do we have any confirmation of how bad that was?
No, nothing at all has been released about it. Obviously, just only that it was an ankle injury that he couldn't kind of continue on with. So you would think a week's a tight turnaround for someone that came off the field, to be honest.
Yep. For the Indrua, they had Kitioni Salawa rested.
He wasn't rested. No, he had an injury, and they said that he was looking to hopefully be right by Thursday, but they didn't want to fly him and Ravidal Mata over for both the same reason, and then potentially not actually have them for the game and disrupt the team that much. So I think both of them should be back, but it's more about them being right from injury. Tawaki could be the same, Samuel Tawaki, but they weren't as clear on that.
Okay. In terms of the returns column, we've got Talani's hopefully coming back from his shoulder injury for the Waratahs, and he is an absolute cracker.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they're he's so important to the way they play the game, just his game line, his ability to get the game, his hands free as well. And if they've got him and Gleeson running H to H close to the line as well, there's a lot of potential to break the line there. I think personally, you say that this is a banana peel game. If anything, I think the Waratahs have done historically very, very well against the Fijian Drua. I think that they seem to have a habit of dealing with the type of game quite well. They get to kind of 50, 60-minute mark and then blow them off the park. So I think they deserve to be relatively strong favourites here, not to take anything away from the Fijian Drua. Like, let's be honest, when they're at their best, they can beat anyone. But I think they should be aiming to be the strong favourites and to win this either with a bonus point or at least by more than a score. So, yeah, I think it'll be a tough one for the Ndrua on the second week of this road trip.
And look, it's a tough road trip, flying from Fiji all the way to WA and then flying back to Sydney. Tars were in Sydney last week, so it's not been tough for them. But it's an interesting one. I think we heard that Cooper was extended. He could play the extra games in a row. And it was maybe because of the back of Talani Siu's injury as well. He's coming back. We've got Gamble there as well. So maybe is it time that we see Hooper get the rest, or do they confirm him for one more week?
I'm not sure it was a 5 in a row. I think they just had to have two or three games rested for the whole season. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think they might have softened on that when Eddie came in. They just said he had one more rest he needs.
Yeah, he got a week or two ago. He got clearance to keep playing. So There was an article about it, and I think it might have included this one, but I thought from memory it probably makes sense that Talani Sio coming back in could change that because you can bring in Gamble into that 7 jersey, and he's been good when he's come off the bench too. So maybe we see a back row of Seal, Gamble, and Gleeson, which you love to see. Whereabouts do we know Ned Flanagan, Harry, old Teddy Flanagan is?
He's another one of those ones that's just multi-week concussion. So I'm not sure that we have any clarity about him. The way the Waratahs write their injury reports, it's like round 13 plus. So I'm taking anyone with a plus next to the name is probably not back. But yeah, he's been concussed since round 8. So good luck guessing that one. I think we're just going to have to wait and see his name on a team sheet before we try and claim anything.
Yeah. I'll say I'm surprised that they keep playing Hooper when Gamble's a absolutely great choice to stand in to give him a rest for a week. But Yeah. The next question with this one is if Faketti's still out in the 12 jersey, who are we going to see fill his shoes? Masesi Tuipulotu looked very promising much earlier in the season, but that was before Joey Walton was back from injury. Is it kind of Joey Walton's rights to the jersey and Tuipulotu maybe on the bench?
It's an interesting one. I think off the bench they've made it pretty clear that Walton is the next man in for them in the last few weeks. I think adding some real physicality back into that 12 jersey would be Tuipulotu. I'd love to see him get that crack, but I'd be probably putting my money on that they wouldn't do that and that they'd put Walton in. He's got a bit of a kick on him, and it could be a real positive for them in this sort of match, so they can control where they're playing on the field. And then you bring someone like Tuipulotu off the bench, so we need to see him back in the 23. Just so we can get him involved, and he could come in at 12 or 13 and shift Parisi out, which they've done in previous matches, especially through last year as well.
Have they played Tuipulotu at all at inside centre? Like, I was under the impression that it's been Faketi 12, Masesi Tuipulotu at 13. I didn't realise that they were actually playing him in that position.
Oh,
he's 13.
Yeah, right. There you go.
No, I think that's the biggest thing. I think Faketi out, it's Walton. If Parisi's out, it's Tuipulotu.
Right. Oh, okay. There you go. Very good. I was just thinking I'd like to see Tuipulotu have a crack at 12, but if he hasn't so far, that makes sense. For mine, the random spanner I like to throw in the works, which I hope happens, is we see Nems back, Nadolo on the bench against his Fijian Drua. I think that would be great to bring him on for the last 20, 25 minutes. He'd love that. And he's there or thereabouts. I think he's similarly, I forget what his injury niggle was, but it was, I don't know what the latest was, Harry. Does he a 13 plus as well? Or I thought he was like an 11 plus. We just haven't seen him.
Yeah, no, he's a 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13 plus, but also playing shoot shield at times as well. So I think he's my gut feel is his knee's cooked and he's at the end of his career. And if he's feeling up to it and they need him, they'll play him. So yeah, I think it's, while they've got their outside backs all playing very, very well, I think we're unlikely to see him, to be honest. My little insight for the pod this week, guys, is that I have from the man himself, Tane Edmed, confirming we'll see him not this week, but next week. So a bit of pressure on Dono to have another good game. I thought he stepped up well, started attacking the line last week. So that was a good step in the right direction. Not a complete performance, but much better. Tane Edmed, back next week. Heard it here first if you haven't heard it anywhere else.
That's some good insight, though.
All right, onto the Drua. Do you want to look at some of the Drua selections?
Yeah, look, this back row, I would love. I think we saw it. We might have seen it in its entirety with Miramira, Salawa, and Darren Alangi. I know we've had Miramira and Salawa together. We've had Salawa and Darren Alangi, and we've had Miramira and Darren Alangi, I think, together, but not the three of them all on the paddock at the same time. And that's a pretty formidable back row. And they're all phenomenal athletes. The one that leaves out is Tamani, who's absolutely phenomenal as well.
Do you know what I'd like to see?
And Kobata, man, I reckon he's been absolutely sensational as well. Like, there's a few options there, and I think, to be honest with you, Joe Tamani's arguably their first. No, look, I shouldn't say that. Canaveri's been exceptional, but he's one of their first picked forwards. I just don't think you can pick a team without him. Although, arguably they can slide him in at lock as they have once before this season already.
That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Tamani in there at lock with Nasila Silla, and then you have on the bench, you have Kriketaveta and you have Kanakabata on the bench.
Not his name, mate. That's not his name. But look, it was a couple of weeks back. Actually, it could have been the last time you were on the pod, Cargie. I said, put Joe Tamani in the locks. And you go, they've never done it. I don't see how they'll do it. And they did it that week. So if this is the second time we're saying it here and it happens again, guys.
What do you think? What do you think, guys? They just play like their entire back row as their whole forward pack. Like even Nasila just dropped to the bench and play Tanaka at lock as well, because the Tars are big, mate. They've slowed down a little bit. The way to get around them is to tire them out. Sure, you just run those five as the loose five and just have a crack at them.
They've got the loose 23 no matter who they pick. They are the most freakishly fit athletes around the field. And pretty much all of those guys we've mentioned in back row, they're all splitting images. They're the same height, the same weight. Like legitimately, it's quite crazy how many of them are relatively big, fast, fit guys.
I'm really hoping to see that this goes back to the last time they played, which was at Super Round. This was the Tahs Drua at Super Round was probably the most physical match of the weekend. I don't know if you guys remember it.
Absolutely ridiculous.
But the Drua were absolutely hammering the Tahs everywhere. The only Tar going forward was Gleeson. That was one of his first stellar performances. But I'm hoping we see some more of that on the weekend because that was unreal.
Can I ask you guys, in the back three for the Ndrua, who would you guys play at the moment? You know, they've got Waratahs been phenomenal, and I expect back from injury. I thought Draft had a brilliant game as well. And then you've got the likes of Rakuro, who had a killer game 2 weeks ago. You've got Aroni Sal, the sledgehammer, who Cargie's, it's his favourite player in the world at the moment. And others, Asafa Marcy can play over there as well. How would you guys set it up?
Look, I would go. I think Ravitamata and Draw pick themselves at right wing and fullback. And Taniela Rakuro is he's a youngster who was kind of brought in. He's not. I don't think he's on a full contract, but he was brought in. 2 weeks ago, an absolute blinder. Last week, unfortunately, just the ball never came to him. I mean, if you're asking me, I'm going to say Aroni Sal on the left wing, the sledgehammer. You got to get him on there. He's just got to be in and amongst it, mate. It's just even the mana he brings to the team, his presence, So whether or not he's delivering on the field,
mate, you can't say mana when it's a completely different language and culture.
I didn't know what the word was for that in Fijian. So
yeah, that's fair. Look, but no, I think you're probably right. I do think it's probably Aroni Sal filling that third jersey on the wing for me at the moment. I'm trying to think back to who else has been there in the past. It's not Marcy, I'll tell you that. Marcy is a centre, and he looks so much better every single time that he runs with a 13 on his back. So yeah, Yosefa Marcy. Yeah, Yosefa Marcy.
Yeah.
He's
tips. How's it going to go? I'm gonna go out there on a limb and say the Tahs will get this one done by probably 15. Blowout at the end.
I think there's been some good glimpses for the Tahs. The consistency now of being at home another week and getting some wins under their belt. I think it's going to be another good one for the Tahs, and I'm going to say something very drastically different to Harry, 14 points.
I was 100% going to say 14 points, so now I'm going to have to take 13 points.
Good. Like it.
Tahs by 13.
At least we're close, guys. At least we're close.